All right, guys, what's going on? What's cracking? We're going to be working on my car today because I'm going to finally be installing these gauges here. I want to thank Mike Seeger again for this. He gave me these over a year ago. I was doing too many other things to the car. I didn't feel like ripping it apart if the gauges didn't work. It was one of those things that the car needs to be running to do this. So I'm going to show you guys the whole process. It's actually not the hardest thing in the world. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot with this, but just please take your time. Getting the dash panels out, doing all that stuff's the easy part. Once we get that out, I'll show you what you guys need to do from there. But we'll go over that, some of that basics. But if you guys don't know how to take the dash panels apart, it's pretty easy. You literally just pop them out. There's only a couple screws that hold in the gauge cluster, and there's one screw at the very top of the HVAC unit, and then there's that 5 screws, I believe it is, at the top piece there, but there's really not much to it. But let me show you this. So here's the gauge set. I actually have another set here that's for the auto. I'm not sure about those yet because it kind of sweeps down around like the drive and all that stuff, and I don't really like that, to be honest. I'll show you guys here, but this is the kit, and they tell you some instructions here, but look at the LEDs. These LEDs are not the cheapos either. This is what really helps emit all that nice light. He even gives you the stickers here too. I'm very much debating if I'm going to do this part just because I've heard it is a nightmare to try and get on. And I am not a very delicate, I'm a very shaky person. So we'll see. I would like to have it that bright red, but you know, I'll go over it when that time comes. Kind of what makes these gauges special is they have that flat look, okay? They have that nice flat look to them. And he also sprays this white paint on the back. And you're like, well, it doesn't look like he sprays it like evenly. Well, that's the point. It's to help distribute the light. If you're ever inside one of these cars, you'll notice you got dead spots in areas. This is to help even that all out. And you'll see it on this here. You can see how it's like the top doesn't, but the sides do. It's to help even out the light. Again, here you'll see, you're like, whoa, he only does certain spots. Again, evening out the light. This is where it makes this kit a little bit above and beyond. He does have a video of how to install this already, but there's gonna be some steps I'm gonna talk about here too, especially once I get it out. I'm still working on this car here also, but let's go into my car real quick. Now, just go right here. Again, all you're gonna do, guys, is pop out this panel, take out these screws here. Once you get this out, pull that centerpiece out. There's always one screw up here unless most people forget about it. I always put it in there because I want to keep everything as tight as possible. Once you do that, you'll then pull out this panel too. You don't need to unplug everything. I would just let it hang and then pull out the gauge cluster, which is only 4 little screws. I would have a magnet close by because they tend to fall down. You don't want it falling in the dash, so make sure you grab one of those. And then after you do that, we'll get the cluster up on the table there. And I'm going to kind of set the camera up and show you how you take the clear covers off and then pop the gauges out and so on and so forth. And again, you want your car running for this, guys. Don't have your car completely apart because to set up the needles and do everything, we're going to have to do something. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's a little different. So I want you to be cognitive. Another thing you want to do too is know where your gauges are at. Okay. So let me focus here. So I'm going to take actual pictures and some video here on my phone and not just this camera to try and get an angle. Now for the speedo and for the tachometer, what I'm going to do is you got to leave the cover off until the car's up to temp because I know it's going to ride right around that 1 mark, the 950, because it idles at like 950, 1000. And again, these gauges are old analog, so they're not perfect either. So I'm not too worried about it. But your gas gauge and stuff you want right, and then for your temperature gauge, you're going to want right also. Again, you let your car, for someone like me, I have a BTI gauge. It allows me to know, okay, the car is fully warm. It's at 180 degrees. I know where this should be at from where I've seen it before. I know where an OEM car should look at and see. And then I believe the new setup has like a temperature on it. I could be wrong. I got to look back at it again. But I'll be able to use my BTI gauge to go like, hey, this is where it needs to be right now. I can pop it back on, and then we'll put the clear covers and everything else back on it. So it's going to take a little bit of time, guys, but I'm telling you, it's going to be worth it. Okay, so no, the cold is just cold, and the fuel works just like factory, so there's no like 170, 180, so on and so forth, which is actually good for me because those are sometimes off. Mine sits a little bit lower than the other ones, I've noticed, so yeah, I should be good here. Let's start taking it all out, take the dash panels out. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do here next, then we got the cluster out, and again, all you gotta do, like I probably skipped over this, I skipped over this before the fact that taking out the panels is just easy. You're literally popping them out, taking the screws out, and then there's 3 plugs in the back. I mean, everything just comes out so easily. There's no, just pull in the dash panels. Like they just pop out, and that's it. But what we're gonna have to do here is pop off these clear cover, and you can see it has these little tabs here. Just be very careful. You can pop them out. Get a plastic tool, I recommend, like a trim panel tool. You'll pop that off. And before you even do that, what might be the right thing to do is to replace all the LEDs here in the back. So let's do this. You'll see here we have our LED kit, so let's put this over here and here. And let's replace those because we have a clear cover on still. We can go ahead and handle that. The only thing I will say is I'm assuming it's just like all the other LEDs I've ever done. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. What I mean by that is they're reversible, so depending how you put them in, you might have to, so don't button everything up and then be like, oh my God, the lights don't work. Flip the LED around, you go, oh, okay, the light works now. So just be cognitive of that, guys. It might not work perfectly, but yeah, just be cognitive of that. Okay, guys, so I'm taking the backside off here. Got the camera kind of set up, so I might have to tilt it up just a smidge more. But here is, I don't want to touch these, but here is my new ones on the left versus the right here, which is the counter opposite there. But these look a lot different from these ones here. So I'm not sure how much better they are. I've got a whole other bag here too. I'm not sure if these are extras or I think actually there's need to go into, but it replaces everything on the board. This is a lot to go over. So I've got all these big ones here, then a ton of these little guys. So we'll replace them all and get this all snapped back together. All right, now that we've done that, we need to pull off this clear case. Again, it just has these little tabs here. I might actually be able to do this by hand, just gotta be careful. Yeah, it looks like I will be able to. Just pop them out, so that's even better. I'd rather do it by hand than push on it with a tool anyways. So, yeah, I'd rather mess up my hand a little bit. I believe you guys, I'm sorry that I put this up in the air because I don't want to press down on it now. I believe you can still buy this new, the clear cover, believe it or not. I believe Stu Hagen, I'm sorry, excuse my ignorance if I don't know how to say his name properly, who also makes a awesome kit, which is his is a more full-on replacement. It has a bunch of these clear covers in stock. So if you're looking for one, you might want to hit him up. See if it comes out. Do I have them? I don't think this one's undone, that's why. Here we go. And then we'll set that off to the side. So there's the clear cover guys off. I'm trying not to touch that. Outside is one thing, inside's another. Now I'm gonna get gloves on because I don't wanna get any of my oil or greasy of my hands on this. I wanna keep that away as much as possible. So next up is pulling off the needles and then pulling the gauge faces off. Again, I'm gonna go get some gloves now. Now after talking to Mike, he's like, just be careful. I've got a brand new pry tool here. Now he said just be very, very careful when doing this. You can see this stuff is very sensitive. So he's like, put it up under and just very gently pry up on it. It shouldn't take a whole lot, he said. So we'll see. I just do not want to break it. It is my biggest fear. Oh boy, it's taking a little bit more than I would like. Oh boy, okay, all right. We're gonna take our time here for a second. Oh boy, okay. We're gonna try another tool real quick. So far it's going okay. It's nerve-wracking, but it's actually very smooth. The only thing it's hard, you actually do have to pull up a good bit to pop these off. Now, my pen died or whatever, but I'm like, just because I don't want to get fused, I don't know if it matters, but tack, fuel, temp, speed, I did that for my own sanity, right? You can see how orange these are versus the red, which the other ones look way cooler with red. So I'm still debating if I'm gonna go do all that because that's a pain in the butt. I wanna make sure it lines up and looks perfect because if it's slightly off, I'll go insane. I might let my wife tackle that part. Excuse me here, but that's all off. Now, one thing that he doesn't show, if you ever see his video, there's these little sticky pieces. You can't really even see it on camera. See that little square right here? It's literally, see if I can use this right here, this little square that's right there. That is a sticky, see if I can get my finger on it here. I don't wanna try to put trying to keep my greasy hands off of this, but you wanna pick and peel these off. If they're on there, most of the time they stick to the back side of these guys, but if not, you wanna do that. Like I think, yeah, see how it's stuck to that one? See those there? They stuck to the gauges. The other ones, I think, it was just this one. Yeah, this one didn't. Again, can you see that white that they put on it now? And you can see why he did it on his. That's to help spread that light. And again, you see the two sticky pieces on it. They stuck to this. He says, please remove that. When I talk to him, he doesn't show in his video, but please remove those or they can cause damage and you'll be a very unhappy camper. So be cognitive of that. And now from here, guys, you don't need to glue or do anything down. Again, just make sure that tape's off, and you're just going to place these. They have their little line, they align themselves. Now, the one thing they do give you too is these little pins, and this is to hold the Speedo and tack, so when they come down to rest. Now, these are going to be something we're going to do here later in the video, and I am going to show you guys how I do this. Coolant and fuel will be easy-ish, because I'll be able to allow the car to warm up to get it right. Fuel will be the first. We know that once the car is reset, I turn it back on. We know that it should be sitting right just below, I guess that's half, so just the first notch up above half there, and it's kind of just a C hair below it. And then for coolant, I know I gotta let it warm up to 180 before I can do anything. But fuel will be first, because obviously as the car runs, the fuel does go down. And then for the coolant, we wanna let it get up to full operating temperature. Then once those are pushed on, we gotta go over to these two. And then once we get that done, once we get to this side, this is where it's gonna be a little more difficult, because Speedo is gonna be the hardest. Tack, not so much, again, depending on your cams, and if you've got a aftermarket ECU, it makes it pretty easy, because if I know it's targeting 950, 1,000, I know, hey, once it's warm, and I know what the target idle is, and I can see it on my BTI gauge or my ECU with my laptop open, I go, okay, push it on. So I can take the needle and go click, and push it on right when I know it needs to, and it should be fine. Keyword should be. Again, I'll be showing this process in case anything goes wrong. The hardest is gonna be Speedo. Now, the way we're gonna do this for myself is I have my ECU set up, and it's actually outputting to my gauge, but the other way you can do it is download that Racing Channel app. It's a GPS app. So what we're gonna do is use that to get it out to speed and make sure we're actually correct. I'm gonna match that also with what I have in the ECU, but the ECU is based off whatever I tell it. So we're gonna use GPS. The best way to do this is to find a open, smooth road where you can get almost like highway speeds, where you can just hold it at that, where you gotta come up and down constantly. It's not gonna be ideal, because the GPS is a little delayed to get the Speedo right. And it won't matter, again, once it goes up, it's just gonna keep rounding around like it was before, so you don't have to worry about this. Now, if you're someone with kilometers, they went from 0 to say 320, there is a converter you're going to need. You need to contact Mike Siegers, and he can get you in contact. So don't worry about that until the time comes, but I'm just letting you know. And I think that is it, fellas. Again, there's these little pins too we need to put in. He recommends putting a dab of glue, so they fall right through that little hole there, to hold it in place so it doesn't fall anywhere. I don't know if that's really going to be a problem, but we'll see here. Okay, once you place those on, you got your little needle. This one here, I put a dab of glue on, just a dab of glue on that needle. This one here, I didn't have to, because it's got plastic behind it. This one kind of does, but kind of does, so if this shifted around, the needle would fall out. So I put a dab of glue on it, let it fully dry, and everything seems okay now. Now again, the only thing that is annoying is trying to do this. I wish there was a paint and I could just get a fine brush and just paint it on. Sit this, prop this up on something so I don't have to hold it either. So I'd figure out a fixture to hold it and then sit there and gently, or let my wife gently just brush it on, tape off maybe around it. Because trying to cut this and get it to sit on there perfect, that's more of a task than trying to paint something. So I don't know if there was an acrylic paint or something I can do. I'd like to take off this orange and then just paint the top surface red. If anyone knows, or if there's a good way of doing that, please let me know. But now I'm going to put this in the car and make sure the lights even work. At least we can test that, and then we can test the needles later. So, because I know I'm going to have to pull it back out, so might as well at least test to see if the lights work. So this is where I'm trying to be out. I'm going to have to upload this from my phone then, but I got the other gauges on. The temperature is easy. Get the car up to temp, okay, and put it on the middle there, close to it. It's a little bit below it. For the tack, again, if you got a BTI, or just hook up your laptop to your ECU, and you can see, oh, the car's idling at 1,000, push the needle on 1,000. And it's pretty, I check it now, it's pretty darn accurate to it. Again, these analog gauges aren't perfect, guys. So don't worry. I can't tell the difference, I can tell you that much. The gas gauge, I took a picture before I took it apart, and I had the same fuel. That's the only thing where I say, like, you have to be cognitive of where the fuel level was at before. And then for driving now, for the speed, I'm using my BTI gauge again. Plus, if you don't have that, use the GPS that's on your phone. So right now, my phone, I'm gonna get it to a smooth area. I know I'm gonna get it to 40, because you can hold the car in a better steady state at a higher mile per hour. The car doesn't jerk as much, and then push it on at 40. You can pick another mile per hour, 60, 70, whatever. It's just easier and more clear if I put it at something that's direct. Like 40, I know is 40 on like a dash mark. One other thing you wanna do, again, if you didn't buy new, is try to polish these up. You can see I got it pretty good. Before I pop this back on. And if you saw my iPhone clip there, I got everything pressed back on. And again, I'm gonna go over this one last time with you guys to make this as easy as possible. And it really isn't that hard. Like I've been really impressed. I held off on this because the car needed to be running, but fuel, that's probably the hardest in my opinion, for the fact that if you don't have that right, there's no way of really guessing. You fill it up, but the problem is it has a point where it stops, where it's past full, so you don't know where it really is like timed out at. So it's hard to decide like, hey, is that really max or not? Where I'm going to find out here if I have to pull it back off is if I, if I get to like, fill it up and I'm like, hey, it's not even getting to the full mark and I know it's full. So I'll be like, all right, I got to fix that. Temp, just let the car get to 180. Tachometer, get to whatever the, OEM, where it's supposed to idle at. Don't do it when it's still warming up. Wait till the car's warm so it's holding a steady state. And then for this, again, just getting it to 40. Now, what I forgot about is I can adjust that because I have a Haltech that outputs that speed. So I can adjust it to actually get it on point. But yeah, guys, not the hardest thing in the world. Very impressed. Again, check the link down below to get yours. I couldn't be happier. If you want to do something that's a little bit cheaper and a DIY, this is it. All right, guys, so I wanted to finish off the video here. Again, thank you, Mike. And I can never pronounce the company right. Again, it's right here. I'm actually going to link down below to his video showing taking off the dash panels and how he can install it too. His is a little bit more in depth. Again, this was just show you guys just to get these gauges, a little bit of an overview. It's more high level, so if you know how to work on a car for the most part, this will be pretty easy. Pretty much the hardest part, honestly, the most nerve-wracking, in my opinion, was pulling the needles off. Besides that, it was so easy to do this. I'm beyond impressed. For the cost of it. Now, one thing I want to make sure is, like I talked about Stu Hagen, however you say his name properly, this is not to compete with him. That's on a different level. You have to send your gauges out for that. That's a whole new LED board, so on and so forth. This is much cheaper, much lower level. It's not going to have that same brightness output. You're not going to get your TRD tack down at the center. So you have to be understanding of that. But for the DIY guy like myself, it's pretty awesome. And it's a lot simpler than replacing, everything. You're not doing any wiring per se. You're literally just popping gauge faces off, putting new ones on. It's just, that's pretty much it. The last thing I wanted to mention is they are coming out with a new HVAC setup. So this isn't going to be lights. It's going to replace the entire HVAC controller. Let me show you some pictures here. So as you guys can see in the pictures here, it's a whole new HVAC. So you don't have to send yours out, nothing. You're going to get a whole new unit because these units are old on top of it, okay? So this is going to have all LEDs in it, a whole new unit, plug and play, plug it in your car, and you're done. He's working on the last little bits, taking about 1.5 years to get the finish right, get the numbers, everything lined up perfect. Like he wants it to look like OEM. I'm mostly excited about that. I'm not gonna lie, because literally in my car, every single bulb is blown, every single one. So at night I have to turn the light on to try and see which button to hit. Her car, I think, has 2 bulbs out and I got 2 left. So like half of it works. And then it's all green. When we go to all this white dash and stuff, you want that stuff to work properly and look right. So this it'll be nice. It'll be blue and red for the hot and cold. It'll be white buttons. It's just a much nicer unit. So I'm very, very excited about that. And the last thing I want to do is show you the actual inside of my car. I know it's not night out now, but let me actually turn these lights off so I can show you guys real quick. So yes, it's dark right now, but if we just key this on, again, it's not gonna be the craziest thing in the world, but I mean, it's still very bright. So off, on, and you can see there's no dead spots. There's no light dead spots anymore. I'm very, very, very impressed with all of this. So look at that. I drove it last night and I was really, really happy. I don't know. I'm happy with this. Is it the craziest thing on earth? No. But does it give you a little bit extra, make you a little happier? Yeah, honestly, it does. It makes the driving experience better. I'm really weird about interior. I like it to look and feel a certain way because that's what you're going to touch. That's what you're driving in. The outside, I want the car to look good, but at the same time, what I've got experience, which is inside the car, I want it to be as nice as possible. So this really makes the experience a little bit nicer, brings it up to the newer age. Now, I know someone's going to say, why not get a digital dash? The Supra's iconic. We have one of the most iconic gauge clusters out of all cars ever made. Like, it's just, this is what it's known for. To take this out kind of sucks. Until someone comes out with a full dash that goes side to side, fills that whole thing, and we can custom make it to look just pretty much like this, I can't do it. Until that happens, I can't see doing. I think Motec is the only one that comes close with their big screen, but I think it's like $4,000. And then I need a Motec, but I think they have their own software just for the dash. But I'm not spending $4,000 on a dash. That is insane when you can get, that's a Nexus R5, which is the PDM ECU, does a lot more besides just a dash. So for me, this is very nice. So again, guys, thank you very much for tuning in today. If you got any questions or concerns, let me know down below. Thank you very much. Talk to you later. Peace.